All right, we're live. Welcome, everybody to Source Radio Network, the Pendulum. I'm your host, Dr. Samori Swygert, aka Doc Swag. And today, I have a very special guest with us. He's a guest, but he's not unfamiliar. So we're going to give it up for Mr. Carl Tone Jones, Professor Carl Tone Jones, straight out of Philly with it. We've had Professor Carl Tone Jones on Source Radio Network, the Pendulum, before. And when he was on here before, he was sharing with us that he was putting together a documentary film. And he was working on the content, and it was very specific and germane and unique to the needs of our people as it stands in contemporary times here in America. And not just the contemporary times, but his film is focused on how do we redirect our thought process and our ideas of the future that is free of white supremacy, white influence, white control, white domination, white orchestration, engineering, strictly controlled, designed, and engineered by us. That's what his film was focused on. Something that has never, ever been done. And see, the thing is, a lot of people, and I'm very happy to see that a lot of people embrace Black Panther. Everybody's doing the Wakanda, and it's cool. But the thing is, now that was a Disney film work, right? That was for entertainment purposes. People love the idea that we were dealing with a all-Black culture, nation, society, where the defense, the rituals, the customs, the mores, how we interact with each other, completely free of European white influence that has been pervasive and invasive in our society and how we live. People love that. But we have to move beyond the fantasy and think, how do we actually build and construct that? So that's what Professor Carl Tone Jones has done. He's talking about how to actually assemble the Wakanda that we're fantasizing about. So with no further ado, I just want to say, welcome, Professor Carl Tone Jones. How you doing, brother?
Wakusu, brother. Wakusu.
Wakusu.
And as you know, Wakusu means, it's taken out of the pages of our dear ancestor Malcolm X. Mm-hmm. And Wakusu means wake up, clean up, stand up. Mm-hmm. And so it's our mantra. We like to use it with Harlem Liberation School in junction with our brother Ajay Tayemba, mm-hmm. And a host of other family, brothers and sisters across the country as we start to, claim our state or stake our claim and regaining, control of our culture and taking steps towards that liberated community.
That's right. So, Professor Jones, you released the film, and it's getting a lot of good reviews. As you said, Brother Ajay Tayemba had, I think, the Harlem Liberation School. They did a screening. They hosted a screening there up in New York. You did a screening in Philadelphia, and from what I've seen, straight from just the video of the reception, it's got a very warm reception from people. People really liked it. People very much inspired. Now, tell us, how did you come up with, the Independence Day project? Like, what made you decide to do that? We've seen like the Hidden Colors series and, a lot of other good documentary films, but nobody's ever tackled that specific angle. How'd you come up with that?
Well, part of it, the genesis, we can always talk about the genius of our children. We've consistently addressed white supremacy over the years. But when I went to the high school, the children, they didn't challenge the concepts like we normally do. They didn't have, it wasn't like a pissing contest. You know what I'm saying? When you're bringing this information to the youth, they see it for what it is. So they were very clear, and they understood, breaking down the system, how it affected them, this, that, and the other. So they asked me a simple question. They said, well, okay, you've brought us all this information. We're buying it. So what do we do? And the first time they asked me that question, I didn't have an answer, and it forced me to go back and study and to reevaluate, why are we doing this? Why are we doing this if we're not coming to, no solutions? Why do you work towards something if you don't see yourself winning in the end? So, I started asking the question, well, the purpose for this, what's the purpose for all these things? And the resulting factor came to an end when I met with a brother who I had grown up with. We're schoolmates, this, that, and the other. And he came to one of my lectures, and he was a local film producer. And he had asked me, he said, what if we did the things you talked about? Like, what if we actually showed those things in a movie? Now he was just dropping this into my lap, you know what I'm saying? So I thought about it, and we started talking, going over, putting up proofs for a dramatic movie, just showing what, the independent Black community. And then I started paying attention to like the Hidden Color series and other documentaries, Elementary Genocide, other documentaries. Brother of mine from New York has one called Revolving Doors, so I started watching documentaries. I said, wait a minute, these documentaries are a good vehicle to get to promoting this message.
Yes.
Because the documentary, you could show you have somebody actually breaking down the information as you provide the visuals, which is very influential, especially when you're trying to combat the negative propaganda about who we are. And so I asked that question. Then I started asking elders, what does an independent Black community look like to them? And to my surprise, a lot of them had never considered the, reality of a free and independent Black community. And I'm looking at them like, you've been in this for 30, 40 years. You've never considered what it would look like when you win? You know what I'm saying? I function differently. I don't jump into something just to say I'm into it, just to get into the mix. There has to be an end game for us. So I started teaching a class called Creative Leadership. And one of the books that was assigned to the class, I had to read the book, was called The Path of Least Resistance. And it's by a European by the name of Robert Fritz. But, the genius of this book is it speaks to, how societies are designed to create paths of least resistance because it creates optimum control for the governing bodies. So if I can funnel your behavior down one lane, then it's easier for me to police it. But if you ever want to break free of this, you can't look for solutions within that problem. You have to create a reality of your own. And I started thinking about this. And I started looking at how, the dominant society functions. Because, I learn from everybody, including our enemies.
Oh, yeah.
And I started looking into how, they were talking about, I looked into how they created the space race and how they utilize science fiction. And the utilization of science fiction was sort of like the brain teaser to create the competition or to create the landscape for people to go further to turn into science fact, like the Great Space Race, the race into space,
right.
Which really was an arms race, but they had to sell it as a race into space, post World War II.
Right.
And how they created international competition all across the world to see who could build the best rockets, know what I'm saying, who can get into space. So they had to visualize this. They created the propaganda behind it. They created the cartoons behind it. Flash Gordon, Star Wars and all these different things, missions to Mars, things of that nature. They created all those things. And now you talk about, currently, they're talking about manned missions to Mars.
Yes.
And I'm saying, well, damn, if they can envision a society creating an environmental society or community in a place where supposedly is one of the most hostile places in the universe, then why is it that we can't envision an empowered Black community and just like in science fiction, build towards that?
That's
right. You know what I'm saying? So when you brought up previously you brought up a Wakanda reference, you know what I'm saying, about building Wakanda. Well, if we were to utilize that visual of how Wakanda looks, I say, okay, well, that's hot.
Mm-hmm.
That's how Africa would have looked unimpeded.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then let's go out and see if we could build that now.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And that doesn't mean that you're going to start at the finish line. That means now you have an end game. You have an end game. You have a goal.
Right.
And you have a visualization of what that looks like.
Mm-hmm.
So with the Independence Day project, we took platforms, and we took, ideas that were already laid out. You know what I'm saying? Elder Neely Fuller, who
Yeah.
got it and sort of was a Jegna to my ancestor, Dr. Francis Cress Welsing.
Yes.
He came up with the 9 areas of human activity.
Right.
And he talked about these are the areas that are controlled by white supremacy.
Mm-hmm.
So we loosely based the film on that. And I say loosely because we didn't address every single one, not specifically.
Right.
In a roundabout way we did, but not specifically. But we addressed the major core factors: politics, education, propaganda, cult, and we surfaced them all around culture. Because if you don't have the proper culture in place, you can forget about everything else. I've heard people argue about, well, we need an economic base. We need education. We need to get involved in politics. We need to have an army. I'm like, these things don't work by themselves. You have to have a system.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? If that system isn't culturally based and culturally grained, then you're not going to be able to build none of those things, because the system that you're currently dealing with is enshrined in the culture and the religion of white supremacy.
That's right.
So, you know what I'm saying? If we're not building a system for us to replace that system on Black empowerment, then what we're really doing is just spinning our wheels.
True.
So that's why we came up, with the concept. And it wasn't just me. And I won't even say that this is an original concept, because we have had ancestors and elders who spoke towards independent Black communities. This is just the first time you've seen it in a documentary.
That's right. You created the vision. It's vision, and you have mission. The mission gets you to the vision, and so you help put that out there. And I think it's good too, man, because we're in an era now where back in the day we used to do a lot of reading, and now, I mean, people still do read a lot, but not as much. And the other thing is, it just seems like somebody has just turned up the dial, man. It just seems like time is just so fast. So it's like people don't even seem like they have enough time to sit down and just, let me go through this novel or go through this fact-based book and, go through it. So now people, they need other mechanisms and vehicles to get that same information imparted into them. So this is why you have audiobooks and the documentaries and these type of things, because it's like, look, I can get the same info, just a different route of administration. You know what I'm saying? So it's dope that you did that. Now, before we go any further, because, people are going to be watching this, where can people go to actually purchase the DVD?
Well, they can go to my website, blackindependence.org, and they could purchase their very own copy of the Independence Day Project. You know what I'm saying? That's right.
That's right. That's right.
You know what I'm saying? And they can get their own very own copy of the Independence Day Project. And we're working on doing something with the in terms of having digital availability. We're working on that right now. I've been in talks with a few people, but right now that's the best way to view it. Or you can come out to events like when I'm going to be in the DC area this upcoming Friday on the 23rd. We're going to be at Capitol Heights at the Everlasting Life Restaurant and Lounge. And if anybody wants to come through, they can. And we're going to have a viewing and copies of the DVD available, as well as a Q&A. So, and also, you can hit me up on Facebook, Instagram, Carl Tone Jones. If you just Google me, Carl Tone Jones, I'm the only one. I keep telling people this for the last 10 years. I'm the only Carl Tone Jones in all of cyberspace. So if you Google me, you'll be able to get in touch with me in one of those different social media mediums. And one of the things you could do is set up a time, we could bring you to the city. I just got confirmation that we're going to have another viewing here in Philly at the North Philly Peace Park on April 14th. I think it's going to be April 14th. So, we're going to be in New York City. in Harlem. We're going to be doing a screening on the 31st. You know, at the I'm trying to remember the name of the building. It's the because I keep saying Mega Evers. It's not Mega Evers, but it's the Adam Clayton Powell State Building in Harlem. So we're going to be there. You know, there's an art film. There's a film festival going on. So you know, we're getting around. You know, the calendar's picking up. Hopefully, we'll be doing some viewings in cities like Atlanta and Chicago. You know, so we're working those angles out now. You know, brother, we basically, you know, they're trying to spread this message. It's a slow warming process because unlike, the Disney film, The Black Panther, this is not endorsed by the dominant society.
No,
and the cognitive dissonance that exists within our community to be free and to be unapologetic about being Black and African, you know, we still have ways to come, you know, or in terms of that particular dynamic. Unfortunately, you know, our community still struggles with the idea of being independent.
You know, that speaks to one of the, towards the tail end, there's a segment in the documentary. You know, I'm not going to spill all the beans, but it's true. You had a lot, and he's got a lot of contributors and features inside the film. I believe it's like 30. Is it like 30 different featured guests?
Well, I would say around 25, between 25 and 30. People who have contributed, and then unfortunately we had some that, because of unfortunately I couldn't afford the top-notch equipment, so some of the footage, if it wasn't good enough to be, you know, A1 quality, I just didn't put it in. But we had contributors. We had about 30 contributors who people, you know, activists, business owners, community organizers and educators, you know, people who were historians. We've had a solid contribution, and not just from that perspective, but also from an age demographic. We had just about every age demographic in the community represented, as well as, you know, we made sure we had a nice balance of male, masculine, and feminine energy, because that was important. You know, we didn't want it just to be a male-dominated, you know, film or documentary. In fact, one of the strongest people in the film is our sister Cara Poole.
Oh man, she laid it down. Laid it down. You know what I'm saying? And there was another sister too. I forget her name. She was I think she was sitting in some type of shop. But
yeah. You know, we had a bunch of them, man. You know, we tried to mix it up. You know what I'm saying? And that's the sister Kalina who you're talking about, young sister Kalina. And she just had a book that just came out. I need to get her book, but yeah, she just wrote a book. I encouraged her to write that book, so I definitely need to buy it.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, support. You know, so like one of the things that you were talking about towards the end is when it comes to independence, we talk the game, but we really don't believe in our own speech because we have too many ties to whether it's corporate America, or we're too comfortable, or we're too safe, or, you know, we just enjoy the convenience that we have now, you know. And so with that, it's hard to, when you really think of severing ties and function as an independent body, it's going to be rough, you know, and that's what Brother Ajay Taima was saying. Like, look, you know, you're going to have your own family members looking at you like, well, I don't know if I necessarily agree with what you're talking, you know, but, you know, it is what it is. But there's a lot of things that have to be done. And being from Philly, me being from New York, and, you know, staying in the DC area, one of the things that you touched on in the film that I think is very important, and Brother BF Nkrumah, Mr. Chance, he was talking about the gentrification that's going on. you know. And so, you're saying it's not just a money thing, but it's also a disaggregation of power. It's okay. You used to live in a community. Now we done came through. We didn't disperse y'all by raising the rent, raising the taxes, all that. Now you just going anywhere that you can. Now at the same time, it's not just about money, but look, y'all don't have a collective voice now, And so the gentrification aspect is very important, man. I want you could just share some light on that. But then how does that fit into the independence when we seek an independence?
Well, one of the things is, we talk about gentrification, but we also, and we deal with it from the aspect of it just being a financial, push or financial pull, economic pull, which is not. Gentrification is a form of war.
Mm-hmm.
It's a warfare when somebody comes into your community and then pushes you out.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they start to, they scatter you, it breaks up your alliances.
Yes.
It breaks up your continuity. It
Mm-hmm.
breaks up your sense of community because now, there's no common unity among strangers.
Right.
And so you can move into the neighborhoods, people, but then, us, we like to stake, claim in streets, and we like to claim neighborhoods we don't own. So, what I mean? So basically you have a lot of territorial woofing going on, and when new people move into your neighborhood and this, that, and the other. So, one of the aspects that we focused on, because I wanted to make sure we touched on the gentrification piece, was to understand the process of how it happens. That this is not a situation where people are just deciding to move into your neighborhood. This is a planned operation.
Yes.
And we have to be planned and organized in terms of how we move and build. And one of the things that didn't make the cut, unfortunately, was was how we need to start terraforming our communities. And that's a conversation that comes with the, with the speaking engagement, how to terraform our communities so that we no longer have to deal with, white flighters or black flight, because that's what you're dealing with. And now, so when you address that aspect, you think about what's happening in Austin, Texas right now, with all these bombings, things of that nature. You have a lot of displaced blacks who live in Austin, which is a suburb of Dallas, Dallas metropolitan area. It's the capital, but it's a suburb. And it's a suburb of one of those large cities out there. I'm not sure if it's Dallas or San Antonio, but the bottom line is, because those black people are not aligned with each other, there's no real power. You know what I'm saying? You just have a collection of black faces in these scattered areas. And, and so it makes us easier to target. And what you're seeing right now is that, you got a lot of these well-to-do families, they're being selectively targeted, and with by these white supremacists. Now, when you start building your own communities up, nobody looks at you as a potential vic. You know what I'm saying? Nobody looks at you as an easy mark. So let's say you take those economic dollars instead of moving to a suburban area, you come into Southeast DC, and you start building up that neighborhood. You're not going to see the change overnight, but eventually, if more brothers and sisters came back to those neighborhoods that were so-called successful, more doctors, lawyers, you know what I'm saying, business leaders, this, that, and the other, they came back to those neighborhoods and they bought up the houses and they bought up the properties in those neighborhoods. Now you have a controlling interest in your own community. You've thwarted gentrification.
That's
you know
right.
what I'm saying? And if you start working collectively, you can start creating associations and guilds and foundations to do those things. And these things are easily doable if we get out of the mindset of rugged individualism, which is a concept we addressed heavily in the Independence Day Project. And we start building towards those collective goals, then we'll start having a collective reason to start working with each other, bargaining with each other. You don't have to like the person next door to know that that's my ally when the enemy is coming forth and marching forth towards us, know. And so we have to, start looking things at a different perspective and get out of this whole mindset that we belong, that we're part of this American dream. The American dream was built on the back of African nightmares.
That's right.
And, and we have to recognize that we don't have a place in their society. We don't have a place of productivity, a place where we can, we can have success and have it manageable and have it in a safe way where we're free and that there's no place that they want to attack us, as you've seen in Austin recently and in other places. You know, you can go to Columbine all the way back then when the young brother that was killed specifically because he was black. You know what I'm saying? You know, when Eric Klebo walked over to him and shot him and said, "I hate niggas." You know, that was a black family trying to move their family into a white community and thinking that they would get away from street violence, and he died at the hands of a white supremacist. You know what I'm saying? Right. So there's no safe spaces for our children in these particular areas. And so, you know, when we start talking about the neighborhoods and the communities that we live in, well, they're that way because of how they were left. You know, gentrification, when we talk about gentrification, we also have to look at the black flight aspect of it. And we have too many brothers and sisters who, when these children come out the house, they don't see the judges, they don't see the lawyers, they don't see the firemen, they don't see the police officers, they don't see none of those people that are integral to other communities. You know, they see the hustlers, they see the pimps, and they see the old, worn down, beaten, you know, generations of yesteryears, grandparents, this, that, and the other, that are just struggling to hold on. So who they see pop off, they see the basketball players pop off, they see the rappers pop off, they see all these different things, and that's what they see when they come out the house, so that's what they aspire to be. And unfortunately, that culture has been pimped into being a destructive culture for us, and therefore it's created a cycle of degradation that's continued, and then we're not doing anything to change that cycle, you know, then we can expect that to be something to come. So, you know, when we start dealing with the aspect of gentrification, as we talk about in the movie, listen, bring those guilds, bring those skills back to the community, and you'll see a change in terms of how we, you know, see each other and how we build within the community.
That's real. And then to take it a step further in what I saw in your film, I forget the term that you use. There's a term you use for the type of community, but you were saying like when everybody wants to go ahead and flee the community, leave, like, you know, like you use Southeast DC, just real quick. When everybody wants to flee Southeast DC and all of that. And so then the community becomes run down, and, you know, they stop bringing the sanitation trucks through, the plumbing and the piping and transportation. They start stripping away the funding for all of that in the communities. I forget, there was a specific term.
Plant shrinkage gentrification.
What was it?
Plant shrinkage gentrification.
That's right. Yes. And that's real right there. So it's important that we do make sure that we come back to the communities. And like you said, when we flee and we go to these suburbs, remember, we're raisins in the big bowl. You know what I'm saying? So we're easy targets. You know what I'm saying? We're easy targets. And the idea of forming our own, it should not be people, when you mention this to people, we get looked at as if, oh, you know, you're crazy, or this is just wow. But it's like, for white America, this is what has been built upon all the time, and they still do. Like, for instance, why do you think Trayvon Martin was killed? George Zimmerman ran up on him like, look, I don't think you're supposed to be here. You should, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, they, like you said, sundown towns. You know, when they have, when you had the governor of Maine, like I don't like these black dudes coming up here. They coming up here, they're impregnating our daughters, getting them drunk, getting them high, and getting them impregnated. You know, that's all secessionist talk. Even in California, you got pockets of California where they want to secede from the United States. You got, this is what it's all about. You had there's a white supremacist that wants his own town. You know, I forget which state it is, but wants his own town. So this should not sound like something foreign for us, or it should sound like something that we should run from, when this is what they're practicing every day. They just do it in different ways. Well, I'm gonna set the housing market price so high that I know the average African American can't afford to be here. So it's not like they did it with the gun, but they did it with the funds. Yo, you don't have the money to be in my area. And then I'm gonna put the police around here to make sure that you don't come. Every time you come close, they're stopping you. What are you doing here? What's your ID? Where you from? What's your business here? You know, so that's real. Now, Brother Jones, the other thing that I like that you guys were talking about was the health aspect of what does it look like when it comes to having our own healthcare system and the nutrition that we need to be thinking about, completely void of European and white Eurocentric influence on our affairs when it comes to nutrition and health. Speak on that a little bit, because we are suffering with a lot of morbidities and mortalities.
Yeah, well, it's basically they've rendered us to a diet of self-destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And when you saturate a community with fast food restaurants, when you saturate, when you create these food deserts, what I'm saying, that we have, and then you populate those food deserts with GMO product, things that don't resonate with our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
It forces us to respond and react to situations, in a lethargic matter. For one, we don't have the capacity to think clearly because our body is not processing the nutrients properly. And so we're not getting the proper fuel for our brain, as our brother, born Emala, spoke to in the film.
Mm-hmm.
Our sister Angie also spoke to, the fact that, we need to get our health together, and in terms of the actual diet. We need to eat. Our diet and our systems process foods, different types of processes than the European diet. So, our food needs to be more alkaline based.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We need a more alkaline based diet. And we have been feeding our food. We not only have we been getting, empty calories, but we've also been feeding it an acid base, diet.
That's
and
right.
Therefore our bodies are breaking down because our body. So you see a heightening of the itis, and this itis is basically inflammation. That's what itis is.
Mm-hmm.
Inflammation. And you see that, and that's why people are developing diabetes, heart conditions, high blood pressure, things of that nature. You're forcing people to work, because let's look, because this is a holistic thing. This is just not diet based, but you're forcing people to work 2 and 3 jobs to maintain, a living for their families. So now you can't cook. You're making healthy food too expensive for people. So they can't buy the healthy food. They don't have time to prepare the healthy food. So they resort to fast food for them and their children. Their children are raised on Hot Pockets and all types of garbage,
Mm-hmm.
And so it's cyclical because now you have malnourished children there. And when you have a malnourished population, and we haven't even gotten into the fact that, the majorities of our cities still have lead-based pipe water, you know what I'm saying,
Right.
that's been heavily fluoridated, so we're being medicated and poisoned in that fashion as well,
Right.
And when you add all these factors together and you concentrate them into impoverished areas and neighborhoods and community, you breed the type of responses that you're going to get. You can predict the type of responses that you're going to get. Overly criminalized, overly populated, heavily policed areas with very few resources. And now we can't even feed our people, you know what I'm saying, the right type of food, for them to even just be able to function and flow. So yeah, we speak to the community gardens. We speak to, growing our own food. We speak to the prospects of having access to healthy food and how food should be medicine. We speak to becoming more active in the community. We speak to not just going to a gym, but if there's a park nearby, going to work out, getting active. As my brother Ishmael says, get active.
Yeah,
You know what I'm
I
saying?
like that. Yep.
You know what I'm saying? Because as he said in the film, how can you be a revolutionary if you can't make it up a flight of stairs?
Yeah, and what he says, doctors like, look, you put me out of business if everybody was like you,
Yeah, So we speak to all those things, and I want to go back to something you were speaking on in terms of like the gentrification too, and not in the different aspects of that, because one of the things we want to talk about really is when we build these communities, it's not just it's not just one monolithic type of community. if you have a corporate job, nobody's telling you have to leave your corporate job. What we're telling you is when you get the check from that corporate job, invest in building up your own community. You know, if you get the if you have certain type of skills, bring those skills home and teach the children. Let them become jegnas under you, or you become a jegna to them. You know, and as their jegna, you're teaching them the skills so that they can become self-sufficient and self-reliant, so that they don't have to worry about going to a fast food restaurant for a job. You know, we got children in my neighborhood right now that we're building these skills with. You know, I'm pretty sure there's some children in D.C. that need skills to be built. We got brothers and sisters all over the country who are taking these skills and they're passing them down to generations. So not only in the Independence Day Project are we talking about what an Independence Day, what an independent Black community could look like. We're talking about people actually doing it. You know, we're showing people doing these things that are leading towards Black independence. So it's not just a stagnant group of historians and researchers. No, these are people that are out in the field doing the work. And I think that's something that can't be lost on this.
Very important, very important. And with that said, one thing that I think manifests very well, the block by block captains, where the brothers out there in Philly are out there in the street. And one thing is you're jogging with the kids, you're jogging with each other, so you're maintaining health. But it's not just the fitness that comes with, you know, jogging and all of that, but you're also patrolling and surveying the community and making sure that, look, there's no sexual predators stalking the kids, and, you know, there's no knucklehead trying to knock over grandma for her purse or trying to rape, you know, such and such daughter, or, you know, just making sure that there's a presence, there's a strong alpha male presence to secure the neighborhood. And I say that is important in manifesting, because it goes to another part of the Independence Day Project that we need to speak on, and that's this: the militarism and security force, the security arm. As we talk about Wakanda, right? As Black Panther, you're dealing with the fact that you had this all Black civilization. But what happened? You had external forces that were soon to come to rape, pillage, destroy, do whatever they want to it, right? It's the same thing when we decide to have our own, whether we were talking about what happened in Wilmington, whether we're talking about what happened in Oklahoma, whether we're talking about Rosewood, so many different cities through our history where Blacks have kind of had their foot, they've had their imprint economically, where they were kind of self-sufficient, self-reliant. You all of a sudden start seeing this influx of whites violently and negatively intervening in our affairs and causing mayhem and destruction, right? And so then it goes to the fact that when we think about what happened in Charlottesville, right? So Charlottesville, you know, we're not thinking of it as like a Black community. What you saw with Charlottesville last summer, when these white males with their tiki torches on Thursday or Friday, they show up on campus in mass, and then the next day on Saturday, them same ones show up in military fatigues in AK-47s and AR-15s talking about blood and soil. So you see that it's not just having and building this awesome project where it's all Black ran and everything, but we have to have a security force. We have to have a protective force, and you address that in the film. Speak on that a little bit.
Oh yeah, you know, we definitely understand that we're not dealing with a benign people. You know, Caucasians, Europeans, however you want to describe them, they've been at war with the world and each other.
Game of Thrones.
in recorded history.
Right.
As far back as you can go in their history, they've been at war. You know, they've always been the people of conquest. They've never been satisfied with having their lot. You know, they've never been satisfied with having just access to their resources. Right. So we know that when we build this, that we're going to have, you know, to be able to protect it. And this is why, you know, in addition to having effective allies, You know, it's important to understand what allies are. Allies aren't friends. Allies aren't family. Allies are mutual acquaintances that need each other at a certain time of need, have a need for one another. You know, and we have a specific set of allies, but also that we start getting trained up and understanding what revolution really is. You know, and understanding that when you have your revolution, that they will still come for you. Learning from, you know, the Pan-African Revolution, better known as the Haitian Revolution. You know, learning how when you know when they let their guard down, you know, America sent the Marines in. You know what I'm saying, to reclaim, you know, control and ownership of that prosperous land, you know, and also to stake a claim because of what, you know, Haiti stood for. Haiti stood for a successful revolt against the most powerful armies in the world at that time. So, you know, we definitely understand that once we gain this, that we're going to have to secure it, we're going to have to protect it, and those are conversations we typically have off the books.
That's right.
You know what I'm saying?
That's
So
right.
we allude to it.
Yeah.
But, you know, that's the conversation that we, you know, when we have, you know, we have the discussions and we start doing other things, you know, it's an interesting concept because the block by block black captains in itself, you know, it already stakes a presence. And, you know, one of the benefits from the block by block black captains is when we walk into the neighborhood and we're walking together, the community takes notice. You know, they see these brothers walking up the street. We ain't playing no games. You know, when that was us, you know, when we were jogging around the park, that was us claiming, you know, Carroll Park. You know what I'm saying? That was us claiming, and we sticking our flag. This is ours.
Right.
And, you know, the you know, the whoever was out there, whatever work they were planning or whatever, you know, activity that was taking place in that park is ceased while we were out there. You know, so for the time we were out there, you know, we commandeered the park, and everybody respected it, and it provided a safe space because people want to see black men take their rightful place in the community as protectors and providers. You know, we were lauded. People driving by beeping the horns. They love it because they know what our presence means. And we want to, you know, so that's one of the things we want to build. And we want that to be a national, you know, movement eventually. You know, once we work out all the kinks, we want that to be a national thing. But yeah, we alluded to that in the Independence Day Project, you know, amongst other things. But yeah.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, that's key too. Like you said, staking your claim, being present. Because I mean, even when you talk about gentrification, that's what you see happen, right? You wake up one morning, you see some white people jogging through the community, walking their dogs, pushing the strollers. You're like, well, staking their claim. Now, another thing that was addressed, and I think this one is very key, is the educational component. You know, we talk about the public school systems and the failures we've seen in Philly, in New York, just throughout different major urban cities, the closing of public schools, right? Then they hit us with all these statistics on black kids not meeting certain things, and you know, you can always interpret data the way you want, you can interpret stats the way you want, but you touched on education, and give people a little bit of what, you don't have to spill the whole beans, but what can people expect to gain insight on the future all black controlled education and development, academic development and scholarship?
Well, we would go back to, you know, Africana studies. And Africana studies, you know, as Brother Isaac broke down brilliantly in the movie, is not just necessarily the study of cultures in Africa. It's not just necessarily the study of the histories, the different tribal movements. It's basically an ideology, you know, an ideology of empowerment, but also an ideology that fuels, you know, knowledge of self. And when we start pushing that toward our children, they'll stop seeking, you know, adulation outside of our community. Currently, right now, what you see in our community is not just with the children, but with the adults especially, which has led to the children, is that we look at our community and we look at being black and being associated with Africa as a defeated cause. And because we see it as a defeated cause, we have become trendy front runners when it comes to, cultural adaptation. So what you see is a lot of brothers and sisters, similar to your sports franchises. When your basketball team in your city, when they're trash, you want to start rooting for another team. That's why in the 80s, people like the Lakers, people like Boston, people like, some people gravitated to the Sixers when they were a basketball team, college-wise, Georgetown, right, and in the 90s, you saw everybody was a Jordan fan, you know what I'm saying? So, so we have to start showing culturally the wins of our community. We have to start showing the Huey Newtons of our community. We have to start showing the positive pushes before they were defeated. And we have to start showing those things in our community. And we have to start, speaking to the success of the Garveyite movement, the UNIA. We have to start speaking to the success of that. We have to start speaking to the success of the Nation of Islam to a certain extent, what they were able to build under Elijah Muhammad. We have to start speaking to the different societies in America and our, have the successes that blacks had here in America. We didn't just have Black Wall Street. We had Black Wall Streets.
Plural.
You know what I'm saying? You had Hadesville, you had East St. Louis, you had Slocum, you had Seneca Village, you had places North and South Midwest, the founding of Central Avenue in Los Angeles, that was a Black Wall Street, you know what I'm saying? The Chicago itself was a Black Wall Street at one point, so, we can point to those places, and then we can point to the areas where those movements came short, keeping them relevancy. But we can also, but we must utilize and speak to, the empowerment of our people in the community, and also to challenge the community to fight, to not give up, and to not lay dormant to white supremacy, to challenge them with the rhetoric of Black empowerment, and showing them, the connectivity of Black empowerment to, the prominent figures that we attach it to, not the sanitized versions, but the real versions. So, if you really heard Malcolm speak, how did that move you? You know what I'm saying? The literature that was put out back in those times, how the Panther Party, what made the Panther Party a threat to America? It wasn't the guns, it was the breakfast. You know what I'm saying? We're serving hot meals to children, and we're teaching them revolutionary rhetoric, So, what I'm saying? Those are the different things that, you can expect to see, empowerment, not being ashamed, not shown, that, you can only be empowered when we give you permission to be empowered. You know what I'm saying? That you can be empowered and you can be unapologetic about it, because there's not going to be a consequence that we're not going to be ready to face. Proactivity. You know what I'm saying? Learning from other, revolutionary struggles and that were successful, and bringing that into our camp. You know what I'm saying? So these are the types of things you would see, in Africana studies that in terms of how we would produce and how we, would envision bringing this education to our children. We would get back to the skills and the arts, you know what I'm saying, to foster the creativity, so that they can see past the mechanical workings that they're doing right now, where the school, the curriculums are scripted and that, they're designed to make them, robotic and designed to base, memory based, learning, rather than, teaching them how to harness their skills and their creativity. So you would see a lot of those different things.
All right. Lastly, one thing I think is very important that you touched on in the film, and for those that are watching, what I'm bringing up are just a few. I mean, there's so many stones that they just turned over and just went in on. So yeah, I mean, it's a tremendous film. But the entertainment aspect, y'all went in on that, and I like that, because right now Black America is so ingrained in celebrity worship. It's almost like crack cocaine, and so it's, it's the love and hip hop, it's the Housewives of Atlanta, it's Scandal, it's just, there's so many things that inundate and bombard us on an entertainment level. If it's not those, then it's sports. And, I mean, I understand people, sometimes they may want to kick back, like, oh man, work was hard, whatever. You want your escapism. But I think we got to a point where it consumes the majority of our time. If we're not watching it, then we're discussing it, we're talking about it, blogs are talking about it, it's kind of like, man, but then y'all were like, y'all came with a twist. Like, look, what about our own? If it was just straight without influence, what would it look like? Our own directors, our writers, producers, stories, publishing houses, and all that. Speak on that a little bit.
Yeah, and that was genius. So our good brother Joseph Ward, and also our brother Eric Keith Grimes Shamari here in Philly. Mm-hmm. When they broke down the points of how propaganda was used against us and how we could take the same propaganda and use it to empower us.
Right.
Instead of seeing the behavior that's disparaging to a community, how we can start talking about brothers and sisters being shown in their proper light and proper respect. How the music, what I'm saying, Sister Shamika Michelle, from Naked Girl, she speaks on, how the music would be more, it would resemble more who we are. And then maybe, these messages, so basically, we would take the low hanging fruit, which are the rappers, because I don't want to excuse the fact that these are Jewish run music production companies that take a plunder at, and make billions off of just trashing our culture. You know what I'm saying? And by throwing dollar signs in these children's faces to produce this music, this ratchet music. I don't want to get out of that. But what I want to do, I don't want to let them get away with that. But what I would like, what we talk about is if we take control of these genres and we start putting our images in the right place, and we won't have to deal with that. And also we also identify why they keep selling us these images. Yes. They keep telling us that as long as you're black, there's no such thing as success without failure. There's no such thing as relief once you attain a certain level. So we break those things down too in the purposeful images, in the imagery, and the wordplay that they use to to sneak their propaganda in. So we address those things as well because we decode. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. We decode what they're bringing to us, and then we flip the program. So we're not going to continuously be reactionary, trying to clean up a mess they've made. We're going to just burn that house down, and we're going to build our own house brick by brick in the entertainment field, education field. When it talks about economics, and we're going to do all these things culturally enriching. You know what I'm saying? Which is the biggest key. We wrap everything in this movie around culture. So the culture needs to, because without the culture, you can do everything else. It'll still fall apart because all we'll do is mimic the current system that we're currently in. We have to reclaim our culture. And even if we have to set a code of conduct in place, which we have at PAX. That's right. But we also, and you have it in just studying the principles of mind. Yes. We have a code of conduct for which if we perform this code, we ourselves can reclaim our community. And here's the crazy thing about it all. If we did these things, you would see a significant change in our community within one calendar year.
Immediately, yes.
Yeah. You would see if we were able to start functioning, you would see our whole community change if we just started moving unapologetically towards Black empowerment. We start practicing the principles. And because this movie, the Independence Day Project, this movie, this labor of love, this was not done for entertainment purposes. It was done to create a template for the visualization of what our community could look like if we start working towards it. Because those are the two questions we ask. What does the community look like? And then how do we build it?
Right.
And once we start building it, you'll see the changes overnight. This is why I can't get passes when people say you don't know what celebrities are doing with their money. No, you would see the difference in the change in our community overnight if they were actually utilizing it to empower the community and not with charity. We don't need charity. We need people to invest in our community. We need the people who are benefiting the most from our community to invest in the community. It's similar to this. Here in Philly,
Mm-hmm.
we have, the basketball team, Philadelphia 76ers, and the star player is Joel Embiid. Love that young brother. Very talented, very outspoken. He's young, so he still has some things to learn about what to say and what not to.
Right.
But one of the things he always refers to is the process, because there was a general manager here who decided to tank the preceding seasons, gut the team out, sacrifice 3 and 4 different seasons to get the team to where it's now today, where it's competitive. Broke it down to its bare bones. They were unwatchable to get them to where they are today. And now they're a budding young playoff team. Future is skyrocketing. It's through the roof. They're projecting to be through the roof for the next several years. You know what I'm saying? And see, if we as a community took that approach, where we sacrificed our ties to the white community, where we sacrificed our buy-ins, where we sacrificed our value systems in terms of materialism and what it meant, what it meant to have high price this, high price that, and we start sacrificing. I'm not saying quit your job, but stop, change your spending habits, and we start building, investing in the community. We start putting our egos to the side and working together, sacrificing our feelings to work towards the better, the common goal of the team, the Black community, our team. Then we ourselves can be a part of the process. You know what I'm saying? And trust the process. And then we ourselves can have a community as young, up and coming. We have a microwave mentality. Yes. We want it done yesterday and we want it done today and we want it done instantly. It's not going to happen like that. No. We didn't get into our situation instantly, but we can quickly reverse the trends if we start working towards it now.
Right. Start busting that U-turn. You know what I'm saying? That's right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Right. True indeed. All right. Well, brother, it's like, we're winding down. I have one question for you before we wrap it up. What message would you like if there's a young person that's watching, let's say like a 14-year-old, what message would you like for them to take away from the Independence Day Project?
The message I would like a 14-year-old to take from the Independence Day Project is that, first of all, this project is for them. This is their movie. This movie is not for you and me. We're of the age right now where our legacies, we should have been paving a community for our legacies, which would be that 14-year-old. We want that 14-year-old to know that everything we say in this movie is at their fingertips. All they have to do is commit towards being empowered, being Black empowered. All they have to commit to is a code of conduct that prohibitedly restricts them from doing anything harmful to their community, and taking all their energy, assets, and resources, and once they have assessed the things that we are procuring for them right now, to pay it forward.
For the next generation.
Yes, you know what I'm saying? Take what we give you, build up with it, let it build you up. Take this information, let it build you up. Utilize it, and once you stake your plan, or once you put your stake in the ground for the future, plant a seed, plant a deposit for the next generation. Because that's how we're going to continue to build. We might not live to see the end of this empire, but we damn sure could live to see the foundation. We could live to see the concrete, being laid. We can live to see the pillars being set. We can live to see that, and they can build from that point moving forward.
Facts. All right, everybody. This is Dr. Samori Swygert and my guest, Professor Carl Tone Jones. On the Pendulum every Wednesday, 8 p.m. on Source Radio Network, we were talking about his film documentary, The Independence Day Project. Very, very, very good project. Brother Jones, I'll let you finish out just by telling people once again, telling them where they can go to get it and how they can reach you.
Okay. Oh, well, it's the same place. You can go to blackindependence.org. It's on the back here. Blackindependence.org. Not sure they can see it.
Mm-hmm.
And you can grab your copy today, of the Independence Day Project. My contact information is on the website, but if you need to contact me, you can go to Independence Day Project at Gmail, Independence Day Project at gmail.com. And we can link up and build. If you want to catch me on social media, it's Carl Tone Jones. You can reach me at either on my Facebook page, or you can reach me on my business page, Professor Carl Tone Jones. You can reach me at the Independence Day Project on excuse me, on Facebook as well. And but no matter how you reach out to me, family, you can also reach me through Dr. Swygert. You know what I'm saying? This is a very good brother. Brother Solid. He's working on a film right now. I'm not sure if he's letting y'all know about that.
Not yet. Not yet. I will.
We're gonna make sure we support his work as well. But we family. This like I said, this was a labor of love. It was 3 years in the making, a 2-year process, and now that it's out, we want to get this message to the masses. This is the most relevant documentary of the date. It stands on the shoulders of all the previous documentaries that exposed white supremacy, the prison industrial complex, the school to prison pipeline. It stands on the shoulders of all those documentaries, and you should grab all those documentaries.
That's right.
But you should also grab the Independence Day Project. If you went to go see the Black Panther movie 3 and 4 times, you can afford to buy 2 or 3 different DVDs.
That's
what I'm saying? So it's not an either or situation. Go out and get the Hidden Color series. Go out and get Elementary Genocide. And make sure you grab a copy of the Independence Day Project.
Official copy. Please don't. Here's the other thing too. Here's the other thing, and I'm serious about this. We can give Disney all this money, by going to see it 3 or 4 times, taking family members out 2, 3, 4 times to see it. When we come out with these films, and you purchase your copy, don't burn it and sell it or buy bootlegs. This stuff is painstakingly done by creators, that sacrifice their time, energy, their heart, even reputation, because some of the stuff, the messages that may be contrary, to popular dominant society belief. So, all that is all that's entrenched in that. So please support official copies of these films that are coming out.
Let me just say one more thing. I know you got to go.
Yep.
I can't tell you how many people, have told me that this is a scary documentary. That this is the most most controversial film about Black empowerment since The Spook Who Sat by the Door.
Yeah, I mean, for some it probably really is, I can tell where they're coming from with it. But hey, look, some people gotta wake up. It's Wukusu time, right? Wukusu,
exactly, brother, Wukusu, and the proceeds from this documentary goes to a lot of different things. We have a book reading initiative where we pay young Black children to read books. We talked about that earlier, but we really need to get them into reading books, so we pay them. They do book reports and they get paid. From the proceeds from this film. We have a community clean squad that we're going to get up and running. We're going to have a community water rights stand this year, this summer, where we're going to be employing young children from the community. So all the proceeds from the film goes to funding projects and initiatives like that, because we're building young entrepreneurs, and we're also building, this is the future. We're building up our young future, our young armies, and we're taking the, like I said, so we're taking the information from here, and not only taking the information, but taking the proceeds. And this is supposed to be, the source. You know what I'm saying? So, when you support the Independence Day Project, you literally support Black independence.
Right. That's real. All right, good people. That was Professor Carl Tone Jones and Samori Swygert, Source Radio Network, the Pendulum. And we out of here. Peace.
Hey.